There are places in America where even experienced hikers refuse to go after sunset. Places so isolated that if you scream, no one will ever hear you. I used to think those stories were nothing more than local legends, until one stormy October night, I walked into Devil's Hollow and realized some legends were never meant to be questioned. My name is Ethan Carter. This happened in the fall of 2024, deep inside the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia. Even now, every time heavy rain hits my window after midnight, I remember that forest, and I still wake up covered in sweat. Back then, I wasn't an investigator. I wasn't a paranormal expert. I wasn't even looking for ghosts. I spent most of my time traveling through forgotten mountain towns, documenting abandoned places and old American folklore for local historical societies. Most of the stories turned out to be nothing. Old buildings, wild animals, people letting fear control their imagination. That's exactly what I believed, until I received a phone call from a man named Richard Holloway. Richard owned thousands of acres of inherited woodland near a place locals simply called Devil's Hollow. He had recently begun clearing part of the forest to build a luxury hunting lodge. The project looked perfect on paper. Beautiful mountains, crystal clear streams, ancient oak trees. It should have become one of the most expensive private properties in the state. Instead, construction stopped after only 3 weeks. Not because of bad weather, not because of money, because workers started disappearing. At first, everyone assumed they had simply quit. Then, the first body was found, floating in a newly dug pond. His neck twisted almost completely backward. No signs of drowning, no animal attack, no footprints, nothing. The sheriff blamed homicide, but nobody could explain how it happened. Then another worker disappeared. 3 days later, another body. Same injuries, same empty expression, same impossible circumstances. Within days, nearly every construction worker abandoned the project. Some refused to even say what they had seen. Others packed their trucks in the middle of the night without collecting their paychecks. Richard refused to believe the stories. He insisted someone was trying to scare people away from his land. That's why he called me. Not because he believed in ghosts, but because he wanted someone with experience exploring isolated places to tell him what was really happening. I almost laughed. If someone had told me then that I would barely escape that forest alive, I would have called them crazy. 2 days later, I loaded my truck with camping gear, flashlights, extra batteries, medical supplies, a camera, and enough food for a week. The drive took nearly 8 hours. The deeper I drove into the Appalachian Mountains, the quieter the world became. Cell service disappeared. Radio stations faded into static. Even the GPS stopped updating. It was as if the forest didn't want visitors. Just before sunset, I finally reached Richard Holloway's estate. He was younger than I expected. Maybe 40 years old, well-dressed, confident. But the dark circles beneath his eyes told another story. He hadn't slept in days. He shook my hand, then looked directly into my eyes. I hope you can explain what's happening. I smiled. I usually can. Looking back now, that was probably the biggest mistake of my life. That night, the rain started just after midnight. Not a gentle rain, the kind that slams against your tent so hard it sounds like someone is throwing handfuls of gravel at the fabric. The workers had already gone to sleep. 3 canvas tents stood beside the unfinished pond. Mine was in the middle, Richard insisted it was the safest spot. At the time, I believed him. Around 2:47 a.m., I woke up for no reason. No nightmare, no loud noise, just that strange feeling. The one you get when you know someone is staring at you. I opened my eyes. The lantern had gone out hours ago. The tent was almost completely dark. Only faint flashes of lightning illuminated the thin canvas walls. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone was walking around the outside of my tent. Not running, not hiding. Almost as if they wanted me to hear them. I reached for my flashlight. The footsteps stopped. Silence. 30 seconds passed. Nothing. I unzipped the tent and stepped outside. The rain had almost stopped. Cold mountain fog drifted across the clearing. The other tents were silent. No movement. No voices. Only the sound of water dripping from the trees. I swept my flashlight across the camp. Nothing. Then, something caught my eye. Fresh footprints, leading away from my tent, toward the pond. At first, I assumed one of the workers had gone outside. But as I walked closer, my stomach tightened. They weren't boot prints. They looked almost human, except each footprint had only 3 long toes, and whatever made them had been barefoot. I followed the trail, step after step after step, until it ended. At the edge of the water, there were no return footprints, nothing leading away. It was as if whatever made them had simply walked into the pond. The next morning, I showed the tracks to Richard. He stared at them for nearly a minute, then forced a nervous laugh. Probably a bear. I looked at him. Bears don't leave footprints like these. Neither of us spoke again. Later that afternoon, the weather turned strange. The forest had been alive all morning. Birds singing, insects buzzing, wind moving through the trees. Then, everything stopped. Instantly. No birds, no insects, not even the wind. The silence became so complete that I could hear my own heartbeat. Every worker noticed it. One of them quietly whispered, "This place isn't empty." Nobody laughed. That evening, a young worker named Mason suddenly dropped his shovel. He was staring into the forest. His face had gone completely pale. "What is it?" Richard asked. Mason didn't answer. He slowly raised his shaking hand and pointed between the trees. I looked. At first, I saw nothing. Then lightning flashed. For less than a second, someone or something was standing between 2 ancient oak trees, far too tall to be human, perfectly still, watching us. Then darkness returned. When the next flash came, it was gone. Richard immediately grabbed 2 workers. We searched the area. Nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no signs that anyone had ever been there. It was impossible. Yet, every single person standing in that clearing had seen it. No one spoke during dinner. No one wanted to admit. We had all seen the same thing. That night, I decided I wasn't going to sleep. I kept my flashlight on, my camera recording, and my hunting knife beside me. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the camera suddenly shut off. The flashlight flickered. Then, a voice whispered, right outside my tent, not loudly, not angrily, almost like an old friend trying not to wake anyone else. Ethan. My blood froze, because whoever whispered my name sounded exactly like my younger brother, the same brother who had died 6 years earlier. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. My heart pounded so hard, it felt like it would burst through my ribs. That voice, it wasn't similar to my brother's. It was my brother's. Same tone, same calmness, same way he always said my name. There was only one problem. Ryan had died 6 years earlier. I watched him being lowered into the ground. So, who was standing outside my tent? The voice came again, softer this time, almost pleading. Ethan, come here. Every instinct screamed at me not to answer. But something inside my head wanted me to follow it, almost like my own thoughts weren't mine anymore. Before I realized what I was doing, I had already unzipped the tent. The camp was silent. Too silent. No rain, no wind, no insects. Even the trees stood perfectly still. The moonlight barely reached the ground through the thick canopy. About 50 yards away, a figure stood between the trees. Its back was facing me. It looked exactly like Ryan. Same height, same jacket, even the baseball cap he used to wear every weekend. He slowly raised one hand and motioned for me to follow. Without saying another word, he disappeared into the darkness. I should have gone back. I know that now. But grief has a way of making people ignore common sense. I followed him. One step, then another. The deeper I walked, the colder the air became. Within minutes, the forest looked completely different. The trees were older, larger, twisted into impossible shapes. Some of them looked almost human. Then I noticed something strange. The ground beneath my boots had changed. No grass, no leaves, just dark, black soil, soft enough that every footprint sank several inches deep. That's when I looked behind me, and my blood turned to ice. There were no footprints. Mine had disappeared. Every single step I'd taken, gone, as if the forest itself refused to let anyone know I'd ever been there. A foul smell drifted through the air. Wet earth, rotting wood, and something metallic. Blood. Fresh blood. The smell grew stronger with every step. Then, the trees opened into a clearing, and I froze. In the center stood an enormous dead oak tree. Its trunk had split completely down the middle. Someone had carved hundreds, maybe thousands, of strange symbols into the bark. Symbols I'd never seen before. Around the tree, old stone circles surrounded what looked like the ruins of a forgotten settlement. Collapsed fireplaces, broken foundations, rusted farming tools. Whatever community had lived there had vanished a very long time ago. Then my flashlight landed on something, hanging from the branches. At first, I thought they were old animal bones, until one of them slowly turned in the wind. Human. They were human. Skulls, dozens of them, swinging gently above my head. Some looked ancient, others far too new. A sudden crack echoed behind me. I spun around. Ryan was gone. Instead, standing at the edge of the clearing, were people. At least 20 of them. Men, women, children. None of them moved. None of them blinked. Their clothes looked decades old. Some wore clothing from the 1950s. Others looked even older. Every face was pale, every pair of eyes locked onto mine. Then they all smiled at the exact same time. Not a normal smile, a smile too wide for a human face. I took one step backward. Every one of them took one step forward. I ran. Branches tore at my jacket. Roots grabbed my boots. Something massive crashed through the trees behind me. Not walking, hunting. I never looked back, because deep down, I already knew whatever was chasing me wasn't human. After what felt like forever, I saw the lights of our camp. I burst into the clearing, collapsed beside the fire, and gasped for air. Every worker stared at me. Richard grabbed my shoulders. "Ethan, where the hell have you been?" I looked at my watch. It read 3:31 a.m. "I've been gone 20 minutes. Nobody answered. Richard slowly shook his head. His face had turned white. "No, you disappeared 3 days ago." I laughed. I thought he was joking, until I saw the others. Their beards had grown. The food supplies were nearly gone. The tents had been moved, and every face looked exhausted. They had spent 3 days searching the forest, looking for me, but according to them, it was as if I had vanished into thin air. Only 20 minutes had passed for me. 3 days had passed for everyone else. That wasn't even the worst part. Richard quietly handed me my video camera. "We found this yesterday." It was lying beside the pond. I pressed play. The recording began exactly where I'd left it. The tent, the darkness, the whisper. Then the camera captured me leaving the tent, walking toward the trees. But just before I disappeared, something stepped into the frame behind me. Something nearly 8 feet tall. Its skin looked like burned wood. Its arms dragged across the ground. And where its face should have been, there was only darkness. No eyes, no mouth, just a black hole. Then it slowly turned and looked directly into the camera. The recording ended, not because the battery died, because the camera had been crushed, as if someone had squeezed it with impossible strength. I never returned to Devil's Hollow. Neither did Richard. Within months, the entire property was abandoned. Nature reclaimed everything. Today, if you search old maps of that section of the Appalachian Mountains, you'll still find a place marked only as Devil's Hollow. Local hunters still avoid it. Search and rescue teams refuse to enter after sunset. And every few years, someone disappears there without leaving a single footprint behind.